Ladies and gentlemen, this is AEW Unrestricted Live! Please welcome your hosts, Aubrey Edwards and Will Washington!
Welcome to Starrcast! I should probably talk into a microphone. Welcome to Starrcast! Saying welcome like you guys haven't been here for a number of hours already. I'm highly caffeinated. The goal today is to see if I get any of this coffee on my shirt.
That's a white shirt, so
Almost
the
definitely.
moment you will know the moment it happens.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
like, give it like 5 minutes, I'll be fine.
We'll see.
Will, how are you doing?
I am great. I just got here. I literally had to come straight from the airport. My bags are literally right there in the back. Don't touch
Fun.
my bags, anybody.
Don't. I will fight you.
Yes. But either way, this is AEW Unrestricted.
This is Unrestricted Live. This is your first Unrestricted Live?
This is my first Unrestricted Live.
You always remember your first.
Do we? Yeah. No, this is exciting. It's exciting to be here. It's exciting to be at Starrcast. It's exciting to be in Chicago. Literally, I've been traveling back and forth, so it's just great to be here.
Yeah, you live our life now where you're just constantly on the road. I woke up in my bed today. I thought I was in London. I thought it was Thursday. Time doesn't exist anymore.
I went home after Dynamite this past Wednesday.
Lucky.
Then came back. And so I am doing the back and forth thing. It's insane. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm happy to be here. This is cool.
It's insane, but it's insane for a good reason, right? Like, we just got off an incredible pay-per-view, all in, 81,035 people. Insane, wild. You couldn't even see everybody. You just felt a wall of noise. And then we've got a huge show this weekend, All Out, which we all know is going to be incredible. We'll talk about it today. It's like, I don't know how we're doing back-to-back pay-per-views, but at the same time, I'm like, of course we're doing back-to-back pay-per-views.
Like, looking at the two cards, it's like they're so distinct from each other, I don't see how almost we couldn't.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, that's pretty much a good way to summarize it.
Yes.
It's pretty great.
Yes, and it's an exciting time. I think, again, we talked about the fact that 81,000 people at Wembley Stadium
It's a number that just doesn't exist in my head.
But you saw it. We saw it. We experienced it. It was like
wild.
nothing I've ever experienced before. Just I had to go out there multiple times.
How many
just to
times
soak
did you
it
cry on Sunday?
Like during the opening, when it finally hit that, oh my God, we've gone on. It's live. We're here.
Just single tear.
This is just multiple. And then the pyro at the end.
Oh.
I sat out there and I watched it, and it was something special.
I cried about 10 times, and then I sat in the makeup chair, and they told me, made me promise not to cry anymore.
Well, yeah, you've got to be on TV. You literally have to be in front of people. I asked you about it a couple weeks ago, like just the idea of you got to be in the middle of the ring and experiencing that. What was that like?
It was like, it's one of those, like, to think about kind of going back, like, All Out, and is such an important show for me. I did the first ever AEW championship match at Now Arena, which we were at on Wednesday with Chris Jericho and Hangman Adam Page. And my sister sent me like a Facebook post, like, remember when this was the biggest match you've ever done? I'm like, right. And now we're doing like Jericho and Ospreay, like it's no big thing.
Yeah.
It's just wild to see the growth we've had in 5 years.
5 years. And yeah, it was 5 years ago to the day.
To the day.
To the day that All In took place right here.
Were you at the first one?
I was not at the first All In. I was at the first All Out.
There you go.
So yeah, I was there front row watching you.
That's not
referee
terrifying.
watching that you referee Chris Jericho versus Hangman. But yeah, just thinking about 5 years to the day that literally was Starrcast. We had Now Arena at the time. It was the Sears Center.
Oh, yes.
And just thinking about what that did to change professional wrestling.
It did.
And now here we are. We got a whole week-long celebration, starting with All In, bringing it from London all the way to Chicago, doing Starrcast here, and now we've got All Out happening this Sunday live at not the Now Arena, but the United Center.
United Center. I love this building. It's one of my favorite buildings. We've had already many, many memorable moments at the United Center. I'm so stoked.
Extremely stoked.
Is our guest here yet?
I think
Is
so.
he here?
Maybe.
Is he here?
Is our guest ready?
Is our guest ready? No, he's
Not
not
quite.
ready. Let's continue to kill
we just got
time.
down. We just got shouted down. We just got a whole signal. It's like,
No, he's not ready. It's cool. It's fine. I'll just drink all this wonderful coffee. So we actually ended up previewing the pay-per-view card a little bit already this week. New episode of Unrestricted came out today because we were at the Now Arena Wednesday night, deliriously recording.
At 1 o'clock in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning. And I love our producer, Stacy, but asking her to turn that around real quick is kind of difficult.
But I'm really glad she did. Like,
She
that was
did.
really cool. Very proud of her. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy, who I think is actually watching this. So know that I love you.
We love you, Stacy. But yeah, we talked a little bit about All Out and talked about the card and talked about really what separates this card from All In. And there's so many big matches happening. We've got and possibly more to come. We'll see. Watch AEW Collision. And then also we have Rampage happening tonight.
There's actually a live watch along happening here, presented by AEW Heels. You can watch along with it. But instead of saying we're going to talk about the pay-per-view card, let's actually talk about the pay-per-view card with our special guest.
Yes.
Is he here?
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage.
Tony got the most epic entrance music. It was like,
I
hey,
know,
Sting,
right?
I
You
see
got
your
the whole
seek and
dynamite
destroy.
intro, everything. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the general manager, the CEO, Tony Khan.
Yes.
Great to see you guys.
Yay.
It is awesome to be here. It is great to be back at Starrcast. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here this weekend. And I'm excited for what is going to be an awesome weekend of wrestling. Who's going to Collision tomorrow?
Good.
Who's going to All Out? I can't wait. I'm really excited about it. It's great to be here. It's great to be back home. We've come off the most successful week in the history of AEW at AEW All In.
Record setting.
Who saw AEW All In? All right, great. Well, this is you guys are an awesome, awesome group. Well, I can't wait to talk to you about that and about AEW All Out. And Will, as he was saying, you made a great point. I've tried to create some distinctions and some great things to separate All In from All Out. And there are some things that really differentiate the card and also, I think, make it special for this great market for Chicago, where AEW started, where really, for me, my love of wrestling started here in Illinois. I grew up in this state, and it was crazy to say, but I was like 29 years old was the first time I was ever out of Illinois for more than like 2.5 consecutive weeks.
And now you're out of anywhere, like you're just on the road all the time.
Now I'm never in one place for more than a couple days at a time.
No, it's absolutely wild to see you go from London immediately to Chicago. It's just like you don't ever stop, and it's one of the things that I just absolutely love and respect about you is you are just go, 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 go.
Well, I appreciate that. Today is actually my busiest day of the year in the middle of the busiest week of the year.
Well, thank you for giving us your time.
So I'm great to be here with you. It's been a couple days. I've had to be up now, and I'm just now glad to be checking back into the world of wrestling after a really busy English football transfer window at Fulham. And we just finished the deadline day, as you said, sir, and it's great, perfectly timed. And we finished everything up, all the paperwork's done, and this was a well-timed reintroduction for me to the world of professional wrestling today. So it's great to be with you all. And I have to say, speaking of what was happening in England, it was probably one of the most historic days in the history of the wrestling business last weekend. We set a record for tickets sold for any wrestling event ever, which is a pretty cool record at AEW All In. I'm just wondering, it seems like a good chance in this market. Is there anybody that was here for the original AEW All In? 5 years ago this weekend. I was
to the day.
To the day.
The original All In. It wasn't AEW All In yet, though. And, the original All In actually is something that helped to set on the path to AEW, but technically it was an independent wrestling event. It feels like part of our family, and it actually now is part of our video library because when I purchased Ring of Honor produced the show, and I was able to buy the tape in the sale, which was a very lucrative part of the sale, you might say. In fact, the gate at Wembley Stadium for All In was several times the price of the entire company, so I got quite a steal, and to say the least. It was a great deal. It was a good wrestling business deal. And in addition to the video library and that, by far the most valuable part of it, there's some great championships, some great history and we've brought some really new life into that promotion, Ring of Honor. We've had some of the greatest bouts in its history in the last couple of years, I truly believe, and breathed new life into a promotion that was really close to being over. But one thing ROH did was help produce 5 years ago, a lot of you were there, as apparently, at the original All In. And I remember it's a busy time of the year for me, so 5 years ago I flew in directly from London, came into the airport, got out at O'Hare, and then came straight over, right over here, and had meetings. And I sat up there at the original All In 5 years ago and observed and made notes, and I was, taking everything into account and trying to use a foundation of what was there to help form what could potentially be AEW in a few months' time. And so that show, while it was technically produced by ROH, now it's part of our library, and it set us in motion. And now 5 years later, we're here for the 5th All Out. All Out. All Out. I think I could say now that I own ROH, All Out honestly got named because I didn't want to name it All In because I didn't want to get sued by ROH.
And now you have both.
I've got the indemnity now, is what they call it. So with that indemnity in hand, it gave me the freedom to relaunch All In, but also we've built something so great here now in All Out. Well, that's an AEW tradition. This is the 5th All Out. And, of course, a lot of you, I suspect this is your 6th straight year of coming to wrestling on Labor Day weekend in Chicago. Is there anybody that's made it to all? I guess that's not true because All Out was in Jacksonville. I'm sorry. It's easy to forget.
It was in Chicago in our hearts.
Well, that's true. There was, but not by choice. I mean, I would never move it out of Chicago by choice. There was one All Out we did in Jacksonville, and it was weird. It felt because I wanted the show to be here. It was great to bring it back a year later. So I guess technically I might be the only one along with you that's been it all. But nevertheless. Really, it's a great tradition we built here. So that's one of the things, Will, that distinguishes All Out as a separate event. Is this really is a cool thing we built here Labor Day weekend. And I'm a big believer in traditions in pro wrestling. And I know the people in the room are big historians in pro wrestling, and a lot of people here work in pro wrestling and really care about it. This is like a room full of connoisseurs, so to speak.
That's one of the things I really love about sort of what you've done with AEW is you've created all of these traditions. We know we're in Chicago for Labor Day weekend. We know already we're going to be back at Wembley next year, which, by the way, if you go to AEWTix.com, there's information at the top. You can sign up.
Right there at the top.
Right there at the top. Sign up. Get all your information for All In next year, because if you weren't there, it was an absolutely crazy show. You can't miss it. If you have the opportunity to go, please do. But it's nice that we have these traditions. We have Chicago Labor Day. We have Wembley now as a tradition. We have Vegas for Double or Nothing. And it's really cool, and it's a fun thing as a wrestling fan to know, like, where my vacations are going to be.
Absolutely. I also and very convenient for me and my family, I also always book, and I think it's a great tradition, Thanksgiving Eve. And we have great Thanksgiving. Has anybody been to the Thanksgiving Eve AEW show?
Oh, I love it.
I really enjoy doing those, too. So we've got something really special here. I thank you for bringing it up. And now, really one of my favorite traditions in all of wrestling is coming here Labor Day weekend, All Out. And it's going to be an amazing show. It's funny because last weekend we set the record. We sold the most tickets in the history of wrestling, and I think it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. I think the combination of box office success and the quality of the wrestling product that we delivered for the show, it was such a huge success, critically and commercially. I think it's not only the greatest thing AEW's done, but I think it's a really historic event, and certainly for all of us, including you, both of you, and everybody who worked at AEW and everybody who was there or watched the show was part of something really special and historic. And that's cool because AEW's done a lot of great things, and I think we've made great strides in wrestling. But that is certainly one achievement, what we did last weekend, that nobody can ever take away from us. And I was really proud of the card we put together. People questioned some things about the card, and it's interesting because one of the matches, for example, I'm really excited about on this card features a championship. And one thing about the cards that we were talking about, I think that I did intentionally, was to have some of the championship defenses split up amongst the cards. There's a little duplication, but there are some titles that were defended on All In that won't be defended at All Out, and vice versa. There are things that are going to be taking place this weekend that were not taking place at All In. Things I saved here for us, for the great folks in Illinois. The people in Wisconsin, I hear they call us fibs. But we, I don't want to tell you what that stands for. But I love it here, and I wanted to save some really great stuff, particularly for All Out, things that made sense. And coming out of the great Stadium Stampede match, I thought it made sense to have the international title defended here.
Yes.
And to have an awesome match. And we have the international champion, the most prolific champion in the history of AEW, defending the title here in Chicago versus the most decorated, most dominant wrestler in AEW history. It is an amazing match. I'm so excited for it, and that is freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley.
Oh, boy.
For a wrestling connoisseur, that is a great match, and the International Championship, I think, has been elevated as much as any championship in pro wrestling since it was established, largely through, of course, the first champion. He was tremendous. He was the double champ, and he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. We can't wait to have Pac back with us. Really miss Pac. He was one of the best, and it was great to be in his home country, England, and next year we want him to be a part of the biggest show in pro wrestling, All In, because it means a lot to him and all the people in England to have a great homegrown star like Pac in the show. And he helped elevate the title. And then, of course, Orange Cassidy, he literally leveled up the championship as part of the greatest promotion we were a part of, and it was great to be a part of to help the WBD cause. And I'm really proud of what we've done there, because the International Championship, it's been some of the best matches on TV, and the man behind the title, the champion, the person who carries it in the JanSport backpack, has been on this incredible run of matches, and right now I think is doing some of the best wrestling in the entire world. The main event on Dynamite I thought was outstanding.
Absolutely.
And that was Orange Cassidy versus Penta El Zero Miedo. And what a main event, and both men had a really good reason why I think they'd want to get in there with Jon Moxley, especially after that Stadium Stampede match we saw at All In Wembley Stadium last weekend. And I think Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley is a huge match, and certainly there were people, like I said, they were calling me a tyrant for not putting it on the show. But it worked out. It was the greatest thing we've ever done, and now we have a huge international title match this weekend coming up, Mox versus Orange Cassidy for the championship. That Stadium Stampede match was one of the wildest things I've ever been a part of, and certainly one of the greatest experiences of my life, because that royal box where they were fighting is a sacred ground in England. It was amazing. I'm so blessed and so grateful to the fine people at Wembley and the FA that they embraced the spirit of pro wrestling. I thought it was awesome, and they let us have fun, and they let the crowd have fun, and we got to do amazing things. And you had the guys fighting and bleeding in the royal box, and I couldn't help but think that when Fulham beat Aston Villa there 5 years ago, my mother was ordering a glass of champagne to celebrate at the same bar where the BCC and the best friends are beating the hell out of each other. So it was a pretty great experience, and being able to do that with some of the best wrestlers in the world, including Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley, but also Eddie Kingston, Claudio Castagnoli, and so many others. It was amazing. And coming out of that, I think it created a really big match. So that international championship is one we're really excited about for this weekend.
It's nice to be in the middle of like a match and worrying that Eddie Kingston's going to kill somebody and realizing, oh, the Queen's Sith here. Okay, this is fine. Oh no, they're beating each other up again.
No, I literally sat in internal panic because this was...
That's me in any Kingston match.
No, honestly, peeling back the curtain a little bit, this was also the first time I got to be a part of a Stadium Stampede match, and that literally I was about 2 feet away from being accidentally on camera because it had spilled out literally right in front of me. It was a great time.
Yeah, you can't really control them.
Yeah, no, you cannot.
You can't, and nor should we. I think that's what makes the stadium. That was what makes the Stadium Stampede so exciting, and to have it first ever Wembley Stadium Stampede, I loved it, and I'm very grateful we were able to do it. And I think it shows that Wembley Stadium, not only is it one of the greatest sporting venues in the world, but they have a sense of fun, and they care about the fans, and they really showed it. So it was amazing for me. It was great to be there with not only my family, to have people from the Fulham squad there. Is there anybody who follows? I know there's a lot of people in Chicago that like the NFL, right? Who's an NFL fan here? Everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone in America likes the NFL,
like
right?
the NFL.
Does anybody follow English football? Does anybody follow the Premier League? Yeah, there's some Premier League fans here. Well, yeah, let's go. Well, we're playing tomorrow. And then, well, it means a lot to me. It's a huge part of my life. That's why, literally, I'm, and I run on adrenaline and coffee here, and I love that I can go from spending going from Dynamite and then being up for a couple days working on transfers and in some cases, dealing with ins and outs of those. And, when we were in England, being able to be around the squad, just like I love being around the people in AEW, and just like AEW is a family company, that really goes across everything we do. So it was cool for that. We've seen a little bit of that with the Jags, because AEW's been in Jacksonville a lot, so they've gotten to peel back the curtain. And it's always fun for me when the AEW people meet the Jags people, because it's like you get to meet the bizarro versions of yourself. Because I have you guys and another I have corresponding people that respond, and that's fun. And it's like the Seinfeld when they meet, Feldman meets Kramer on the street, and then but in England it was really a great experience, and I love the people at Fulham so much, and it's a big part of my life. And to have the people come, to have Marco Silva and Alistair McIntosh, the coach of Fulham and the CEO of Fulham, to have them come to the game, to come from a Fulham game on Saturday where the team gutted out and earned a point under really challenging circumstances with 10 men at the Emirates, and I was so proud of the performance. And then to go from that game and to have Alistair and Marco be there at Wembley, that meant so much. And then literally Tim Ream and Andreas Pereira to come down, and two of the really great Fulham players and two big stars, and Orange Cassidy coming out of the Stadium Stampede, victorious, covered in blood.
A lot of blood.
Big Fulham fan. He saw Andreas Pereira, and even Orange Cassidy reacted to that, because it's a big deal. So he turned his head, and Andreas Pereira's here. That's crazy. And so it's really, really cool when AEW gets to see see different parts of the family, and it's one of the reasons I really like having AEW here in the Chicago market, because my family's here, my family's coming to the show. A lot of my family and friends live right around here. Like my college roommates live 5 minutes away, and the original All In, I slept in my college roommate's guest bedroom, and so it's a family company, and a big part of that is here. And this, being in Chicago, being around Hoffman Estates and Schaumburg, actually, seriously, and this area, it means a lot to me. The streets of Woodfield, the whole deal. I love being out here. So, doing the press tour, this is a big deal for us. So people ask me about now All Out and All Out following All In. And now, as we're going to talk more about the card, I just wanted to talk a little bit about why this is special, because there's different matches on every wrestling show, but there's some traditions in wrestling that are enduring traditions, and I think a lot of wrestling companies in history have made the mistake of breaking their traditions that were working, and you don't want to go away from something, because I really believe if I went away from doing Labor Day here, I'd regret it. And there's no place I'd rather on Labor Day weekends. I think it's a great time to do this. I've heard up to 60% of Americans travel this weekend. So not only do we tap into the best market in many ways for pro wrestling, it's one of the best markets in the world for pro wrestling here in Chicago.
Preach.
But then this is a great place to travel, and people want to come here and see wrestling. Also, another thing, people love watching wrestling shows out of Chicago. Why? Because y'all are the best fans and go crazy.
Preach.
And known for being awesome, yeah. And it's loud, it's rowdy, it's awesome, and you can count on Chicago fans to bring it. So that's another thing that distinguishes the card. And there's also some great wrestling top to bottom. We talked about the International Championship match, and I'd like to take a minute and talk about a match I'm pretty interested in, and it involves one of the greatest wrestlers in AEW history, It's another match people were asking me about, maybe should it be on Wembley Stadium. I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be a great match. Both men really want it. And it's Kenny Omega versus Takeshita.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward to Kenny Omega versus Takeshita. This match has been in the making for a really, really long time. I think a lot of people wanted to see it before Takeshita ever turned his back on Kenny Omega at Anarchy in the Arena.
Well, it was in Daly's Place years ago where Kenny Omega brought Takeshita into my office, really introduced Takeshita, brought him into the world of pro wrestling. And Takeshita, frankly, owes a lot to Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega gave him a lot of opportunities. Kenny Omega helped bring him into AEW, convinced me that Takeshita was somebody who really deserved a contract. And here's the thing, he was completely right. He is a great
100%.
talent. When he showed me the video, when he brought him in live, he was 100% right. And I was a big fan of him, and I am a big fan of Takeshita's wrestling. Not a big fan of the way he's treated Kenny Omega. And I think that's why it was fitting. It was in Daly's Place where Takeshita brought in two of Kenny Omega's old rivals from a faction Kenny Omega was once a part of that has splintered off in many different directions, and that's Bullet Club Gold.
Yep.
Jay White and Juice Robinson turned out to be a great match last weekend, and a lot of people thought the one-on-one match, that's a huge match also. I thought it was very fitting because the original All-In show that a lot of you were at, the Golden Elite were in a great trios match. Ibushi teamed with the other members of the Elite. It was Ibushi and the Young Bucks, and they actually wrestled that great lucha team with Rey Fenix and Rey Mysterio and Bandito, our friend who's out with a broken wrist. Get well soon.
Get well soon, Bandito.
So really, Kenny Omega Takeshita is a match I think people have been wanting to see. I think it's a huge match on the card, and I know that not only is it a grudge match with Kenny Omega and Takeshita, but you can't talk about this match without talking about one of the most hated people in pro wrestling. I'm pretty sure I'll get a visceral reaction just when I say his name, and that's Don Callis.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Told you. So it's a huge match. I'm very excited about it, and I think bell to bell, it could be a classic, but also it's one I really want to see. I think I'm very interested, and certainly tomorrow on Collision we'll take a bit longer look at the story with Omega and Takeshita, what transpired in the early days, and how this came to be. It's a long-term relationship. So tomorrow on Collision we'll take a look at that, and that's one of the many things I'm excited about on Collision tomorrow.
Yes, let's talk about Collision tomorrow.
Let's talk about Collision.
Well, there's some huge matches on Collision tomorrow. I think we could talk about some of the huge matches, and I think we should talk about some of the huge matches, and some of them tie directly into things we know are going to happen Sunday night at All Out on the huge pay-per-view, and then also, there's maybe some other ties, who knows. But we do know at Collision, I think it's very noteworthy that Absolute Ricky Starks, whose suspension from pro wrestling, which really started in the first place, I had to give him a 4-week suspension because of what he did to my childhood hero, and that's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
What a jerk.
And every time Ricky Steamboat steps into AEW, or every time I've ever been around Ricky Steamboat, I personally light up because there's and only my mom would remember this, but when I was 7, 8 years old, there's absolutely nobody I ever got more excited to see than Ricky Steamboat. The first big wrestling show I saw when we moved into our new house in 1991, quote unquote new house. It was our new house then, and it was in November of '91, and here in Illinois, downstate in Champaign, and the biggest pop of my childhood was absolutely when Ricky Steamboat showed up to team with Dustin Rhodes at the Clash of Champions and took off the mask with Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko. So to be able to have worked with three of them, obviously with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Dustin Rhodes and Arn Anderson, pretty cool. But Ricky Steamboat specifically, what a hero of mine. Some of my favorite matches, some of my favorite moments in pro wrestling. And I was disgusted when I saw what Ricky Starks did to Ricky Steamboat. So Ricky Starks, his suspension is coming to an end. He's very upset. Specifically that suspension cost him a lot of opportunities. He was I took his wrestling license. I suspended it, and he was not allowed to wrestle on the biggest wrestling show with the most tickets sold of all time, All In last weekend. And so Ricky Stark's very ticked off, and he has challenged Ricky Steamboat this weekend to a strap match. After what he did to Ricky Steamboat, strapping him, he's the one who blames Steamboat. He's still the one holding a grudge. He wants Steamboat to come in here, and he wants Ricky Steamboat, and he expects me to sanction
Is this something you would actually sanction? General Manager Tony Khan, is this something you would actually sign off on?
I think it's very interesting. I think the idea of the Dragon versus Absolute Ricky Starks in strap match is very interesting, and potentially it is something I'd be interested in sanctioning. So I think everybody should tune in to AEW Collision tomorrow night to see Ricky Starks. He's already said he's going to lay out his challenge. He's going to explain in his own words why he's so upset, even though I think we all saw what happened and what he did, Ricky Starks. So I'm very interested in that. And I'm also very interested in the wrestling. There's some great matches. We just saw one of the greatest tag matches ever, certainly one of the greatest stadium tag matches I've ever seen. I thought it was amazing, and I thought it was really fitting. I mean, you know, you look back, the first match in the trilogy of FTR Young Bucks, and one of the classic matches, one of the best matches ever in Daly's Place, and I think one of the best matches ever is Young Bucks FTR from Full Gear 2020.
Yep.
And I think we all saw when Cash Wheeler went to the top rope, took that chance. He was trying to outdo the Young Bucks at their own game, and it cost FTR dearly. It cost them their first reign as AEW champions, and it cost them that match with the Young Bucks. And now to have in the trilogy, Young Bucks took the big chance, and this time FTR did what they do best and caught them out of nowhere with the Shatter Machine. And it was an awesome, awesome match. I thought it was an awesome finish to a great match and a great rivalry. And I think many people would agree those are two of the best teams. Certainly the three greatest teams I've ever had the pleasure to work with, I think, are probably FTR, the Young Bucks, and the Briscoe brothers.
Yes, 100%.
And I cannot wait to see, of course, an 8-man tag, including several of the best wrestlers in AEW and some of the best teams in AEW, to have the Young Bucks and FTR team up. Very summer 2020 vibes. Very, but this time we're doing it here. Because we weren't able to go on the road in the summer of 2020 with the lockdown. So to have FTR and the Young Bucks teaming up, but now against the unit of Bullet Club Gold with Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Guns, I think that's going to be a great match.
Phenomenal. On Sunday, the 8-man tag.
Yeah, but before that, we've got Dax Harwood going one-on-one on Collision with Jay White.
Exactly. Dude. And that's something really I'm excited about. And so we've got the big 8-man tag and talking about the great wrestling on Collision. And you hit it the nail on the head. Perfect segue. That's exactly what we were going for. And Dax Harwood versus Jay White tomorrow. I think that's going to be an awesome match. We've seen these two match up in what I thought was the best the best televised tag team match I've maybe ever seen was FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson in Calgary.
Yes. It was
it's for wrestling on free TV. It's hard to beat that. That was incredible. And there's some great rivalries, some great wrestlers across that 8-man tag. But one match in particular I think is really compelling. And two of the top stars on Collision from the very beginning, you got Dax Harwood and Jay White. I think it's going to be an awesome match tomorrow night live on TNT on Saturday Night Collision. And that is part of the big card on Collision. We also have an awesome 6-woman tag, a big trios match, featuring some of the top stars in AEW, some of the champions, to have the Outcasts teaming up, to have the AEW Women's World Champion, Saraya, coming off her huge win. We were hoping to get her at Dynamite to talk about that and see her, and she's coming off a bout of illness, and we're just glad to have her back and excited to have Saraya back. And it's a big weekend still for the Outcasts, because by the end of the weekend, the Outcasts could potentially have 2 championships. And we're talking about, of course, Saraya, Toni Storm, the former Women's World Champion, somebody who seems like she's having a lot of issues.
That's an understatement.
But she's what a great talent, one of the great talents in pro wrestling. I think it's no secret. that we think very highly of her. I think very highly of her, and certainly from when she came in, have tried to feature Toni Storm on television pretty much almost every week since she came in some capacity. Right now, we're seeing she's doing some great promos. She's had many great matches. I'm a huge fan of Toni Storm. And Ruby Soho, of course, great star in the Outcasts, and is the one member of the Outcasts who has not held gold in AEW, but is a very decorated star. Ruby Soho, of course, taking on two of the great former women's world champions, Hikaru Shida, two-time champion, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Ruby Soho's opponent, the TBS champion, Chris Statlander. So I think it's going to be a great match. It makes a lot of sense for the card, and I'm really excited about it. I think great match for Collision to have 6 of the top women in AEW in what I expect to be an awesome trios match. Not only that, but we get to see a huge TBS championship match and a rematch at All Out of a match I remember very well. Many of you may remember it, and that's in Las Vegas, Ruby Soho versus Chris Statlander, when really, I believe, was the most visceral reaction for the crowd to say they really want Chris Statlander. It was time. It's Chris Statlander's time, and they told you. They told us. They told me.
Yeah.
And
Ruby's talked about it as her villain origin story. That was a lot of what led to where she is today.
Absolutely. It helped show that she felt that she didn't fit in with some of the homegrown stars of AEW, and maybe she's closer with her friends, her old friends, the Outcasts, Saraya and Toni Storm. What I think is interesting about it, though, is the relationships, because Toni is having just a really difficult time of it. God bless her. And she's struggling with it, and she's also struggling, I think, with her friendships with the Outcasts, and it just doesn't seem like Toni has a friend in the world right now, but we'll see. And I think it's a really exciting thing happening. And Ruby Soho, like I said, she's the one member of the Outcasts who hasn't held the championship yet, and she's got a real grudge with Chris Statlander, and some interesting things happening among the Outcasts. I think it'll be really interesting to see going into the Statlander versus Ruby Soho 6-woman tag. Exactly, it'd be interesting to see just where things stand, I think, with the Outcasts, and it'll be interesting to see the outlook, where things are, not only with the participants in the great 4-way match we had it All In, of course, the 4 wrestlers, I mentioned Dr. Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, Toni Storm, and now Saraya. All of them have held the world title. And then to have this big match on Sunday with Ruby Soho and Statlander, that's very exciting. And then speaking of trios on Collision, very excited to have the Acclaimed, one of the most popular acts in wrestling. I'm just curious, last year, who was there when the Acclaimed got so wildly sport? A lot of you were there, right?
Oh my God.
Let's go. I'm seeing a lot of scissoring in the crowd. So very exciting to see them defending their brand new belts tomorrow night at the United Center.
Which are beautiful, by the way.
It's going to be great. And they've got beautiful new championships, defending them against one of my favorite trios in AEW.
Yes.
A trio that is truly a homegrown AEW trio, and that is the trio of Garcia, Menard, and Parker.
Oh.
Which, similar, it's very different, like the flip side of the same coin as the Acclaim, but some of that Daly's Place pairing up magic. We made some magic groups in Daly's Place, of course, and Menard and Parker have a great association with Garcia, and there's certainly no homegrown act from Daly's Place that's gone on a better run than the Acclaimed. I think that's going to be a great championship match. Really looking forward to that. On Collision on Saturday, and of course on the pay-per-view, we talked about all the great championship matches, all the things we're looking forward to. I'm very much excited, of course, to see the ROH Tag Team Championship match.
Yes.
Tonight on Rampage, there may be some of you going back to watch Rampage after this, so I don't want to spoil it, but we have some of the great tag teams tonight, some of the top tag teams in ROH and AEW going at it tonight on Rampage, and the winners of that match will get a match against MJF and Adam Cole, Better Than You, baby.
Baby.
And that is one of the really exciting things happening in wrestling right now. the championship scene really heating up, and you're seeing championships from all over wrestling introduced, which is one of the things I love about AEW, because that's a wrestling I grew up on. When I watched WCW as a kid, you would see the IWGP championships defended very regularly. The Steiner brothers had the IWGP Tag Team Championship. They introduced many wrestlers from Japan that I was very familiar with. You know, when I honestly was not necessarily quote-unquote smart to the business yet, but before the internet smartened me up in the mid-'90s, in the early '90s, certainly WCW was not only a pipeline for Japanese talent, many of the top stars in New Japan, the Great Muta, maybe the most famously, but also so many others with Hiroshi Hase, Kensuke Sasaki, Shinya Hashimoto, Tenzan, and so many great junior heavyweights. Jushin Liger, also one of the top names, and introducing a number of other great stars, not just stars from Japan, but international stars. And I think we've continued that tradition in our partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling. We just had Eddie Kingston defending the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Championship on AEW Dynamite, and of course the Ring of Honor Championships. Big part of what we do, because I think you've got a great roster of champions there, and now you have to begin that conversation in many ways with one of the most decorated stars in ROH history, Adam Cole. That's the one championship in ROH Adam Cole never had.
Yes.
And very exciting for him that he has it, but also his partner being the man he says now is his best friend, the AEW World Champion, MJF. It makes it very prestigious, very competitive scene. Everybody wants to be in that match. Great opportunity to hold the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship, which is so prestigious and has been held by so many of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Absolutely.
It's one of the best lineages in all of wrestling. If you aren't familiar with it, look it up, and you'll see a lot of the best teams have held the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. And not only that prestige, but also the opportunity to get in the ring with a top contender in the world, Adam Cole, and the AEW World Champion, the number one man in the business, MJF. And everybody wants that opportunity, and certainly to be the Ring of Honor Tag Champs would be a big deal. So tonight on Rampage, we'll find out who will be wrestling on Sunday against Cole and MJF. But what a fascinating scene it was at Wembley Stadium with Cole and MJF. Not to open the show, winning the Tag Team Championship, but then to close the show in an amazing main event. Yes. And there's a fantastic thing happening with them, with the support they're getting from the fans, and not only the support they're getting from the fans, but the support they're giving to each other and the way people are embracing it. I think it's really cool.
Bromance of the summer. So we've only got a little bit of time left, and there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, you all are going to the pay-per-view this weekend because you're amazing, smart Chicago wrestling fans. For those of you watching at home, remember it's available traditional pay-per-view, Bleacher Report app, and internationally you can watch Fight TV this Sunday, all out, 8 o'clock, 7 Central, live from the United Center. It's going to be a wonderful show.
It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time. There's so much great wrestling on the card. Some of the top stars in the company. We've already talked about some of the great matches on the card. Potentially, we'll see if I do sanction that strap match.
I don't know, Tony.
It sounds pretty wild, but I'm just excited. Anytime there's even a possibility, I don't know if he's going to be there or not, but anytime there's even a possibility or a hint of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in AEW, I'm excited about that. So excited to see Ricky Starks challenge him tomorrow on Collision, and then excited to see what happens at AEW All Out. And I'm also very excited about just being back here. It's great being back at Starrcast. I think it's really cool. We were able to come together with Conrad. Thank you, Conrad.
Thank you, Conrad.
And turn this into a great experience for the fans. AEW Fan Fest, Starrcast. I think let's do one big thing, all work together and bring all the wrestling fans together. Conrad's a master promoter, as we've seen, and has a great eye for marketing and all those great things. So I think this has been awesome. And there's going to be a lot of great wrestling on the card. There's a lot to look forward to. I think in addition to the wrestling, I'm also excited to mention we've got an appearance by a Chicago legend this weekend, Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, what the heck? I'm so excited.
Rodman.
Dennis Rodman. God. Conrad's bringing out the legends, and it's like, Conrad, you know what? Like, let's all team up, just like the Fan Fest and Starrcast. It's like, okay, you bringing the legends to town, I'll integrate them into AEW. I think that's a great idea. So it was God bless you, Conrad, for giving me that idea. Thank you.
This is the greatest timeline. I love it.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy.
The idea of getting to see Dennis Rodman again back at the United Center is mind-blowing, and seeing it in
His
AEW
name is literally
is
signed
even,
on the wall.
It's just the most incredible thing. I honestly, I had no idea when that graphic came out. It literally hit on Twitter, and I was, or what are we calling it now, X? But it hit, and I just could not believe it.
It was great, and I have to say that in addition to all the great wrestling and all the great events we have here, I think what makes it the best is like this, the connection between the fans. Yep. And I have something in common with every single person here. I myself have sat in the same seat you're in as a panel fan. I go to panels as a wrestling fan. I've sat up and, while Paul Heyman talked about the ECW show I was going to go to that weekend with Rob Van Dam versus Sabu in a stretcher match, and Chris Jericho's last weekend in the promotion wrestling Too Cold Scorpio. And so as I've been in the seat as a fan, particularly for you young fans, and so you never know, you could end up on this stage someday yourself. What's awesome about the wrestling business. And there's so many great entrepreneurs in the business, and I'm fortunate to be one of them. We've taken some really big swings. I'm excited that we're able to do AEW at the United Center now. That was a big leap. I think we've got great thing going out here, around here with Now Arena. So I like to keep that going too, because it's convenient for people, and it's a great building, and they're very good people, and I have a loyalty to them. But it's also awesome to be able to go into the city and run the United Center, which is such an awesome venue in the world of sports. And after what we just did at Wembley Stadium, I think it's clear we're going for the biggest and the best venues. So coming out of here, we'll continue a great tradition at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York City.
Oh my God, Grand Slam's coming up.
Yeah, and MJF's going to defend the championship in New York, which is very exciting.
Oh boy!
And it's going to be somebody really good. I can promise you that, because there's a lot of great wrestlers in AEW that want to line up for a shot at the championship. So excited about that. That's something coming up very soon too on AEW TV that we have to look forward to, is that Eliminator tournament. And that Eliminator tournament, over the years, we produced some great tournament finals and some great championship matches. So I expect that, and talk about the great traditions of AEW. And there's no tradition more important than this one that we're all celebrating right now, to me, because this is what it's all about.
This is what it's all about. Tony Khan, I wanted to thank you for being here today, for being just the wonderful person that you are, for giving us wrestling fans just so many amazing shows week in and week out, on pay-per-view, on free TV, wherever. Like, obviously, yes, I'm biased because you're my boss, but I cannot thank you enough for everything you've done for wrestling.
You don't have to do that. No, thank you. I was not asking for that.
I know you were.
I did not book that. I did not put that in the format. So you did not. That was.
You didn't have to. But
that is from the heart.
You have left wrestling a better place.
Yes,
genuinely.
100%.
And I think everybody here would agree.
Speaking from the heart, Tony.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're very nice to say that. You guys are too kind. It's really nice to be here with you. I love wrestling so much. And if there's proof of it, it's that I really wanted to come here. I don't think, it's necessarily going to be, a $10 million gate here, like from what we did here. But this is a cool experience, and I wanted to come and share it with all of you. Literally, in the last 3 days, I maybe slept 2 hours because of what's going on with the English transfer window, plus everything happening with Fulham, the Jaguars, all our other businesses. But in particular, today, literally just wrapped up in England, my busiest day of the year. And instead of getting some sleep, I thought the best way I could spend it is with the best fans in pro wrestling.
Thank you. Yes, could not be said better.
You are awesome.
Thank you, Tony Khan, for joining Will and I today on a live episode of AEW Unrestricted. Be sure to like, subscribe, or on all of your favorite podcast platforms. New episodes every Thursday, occasionally Friday, all over the place. But this is great. This is Starrcast weekend. This is All Out weekend. It's just another fantastic weekend of wrestling. So thank you all for coming today, and enjoy your weekend of awesome wrestling.
Welcome to the pinnacle of wrestling entertainment, Premier Streaming Network. Join us at watchonpremiere.com to unlock the ultimate wrestling experience, curated to perfection. Immerse yourself in the spectacular world of wrestling history, where classic battles and unforgettable moments are at your fingertips. Our carefully designed playlists feature wrestling's biggest stars, both from the mainstream and their incredible journeys through the independent scene. But that's not all. Get ready to be captivated by our exclusive weekly video podcasts. Join Wrestling Hall of Famers and legends as they delve into untold stories, share their unparalleled insights, and give you an insider's view of the wrestling universe. Elevate your journey with Premier Plus, your pass to the extraordinary. Unleash the power of being premier and immerse yourself in a realm of wrestling excellence. Join us today and experience the epitome of curated wrestling content. Because when it comes to wrestling entertainment, Premier sets the standard. Be Premier.